Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's 5:33 on Friday, September, and it is the cover story. I'm Chevon Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. How are you, Chevon?
Doing quite well as things seem to be really heating up in the political space in these last few days.
Yeah, man, the silly season is on the way. I'm not surprised at all.
Well, today is not a politics discussion. We are turning to infrastructure as the China Harbour Engineering Company CHEC has begun rehabilitation works on damaged sections of the Harbour View to Yallahs leg of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The road was damaged during the passage of Hurricane Beryl on July 3. St. Thomas was among the first parishes to be hit by the hurricane.
The National Works Agency cited poor material quality for the deterioration of the Yallahs Pond to Pamphret section of the highway. CHEC took full responsibility for the damage. Works Minister Robert Morgan joins us now with an update. Good afternoon, Minister.
Hi, good afternoon, Chevon. Good afternoon.
Sanjay Lewis is my co-host.
Sanjay, I noticed you from somewhere else, but once again, welcome to Nationwide, sir, and thanks to you and your listeners for having me today.
Thank you as always, Minister. So tell us, what was the extent of the damage to the Harbour View to Yallahs leg of the road?
So it is actually two sections, package 2 and package 14, Loudon to Pamphret and Morant Bay to Georgia. There was about 1.6 kilometers of road that was, the base material that was used was not of the quality that it should have been. In context, this is a 122 kilometer two-lane road from Harbour View all the way to Portland. So this is a very small section of the road that was damaged by bad material.
So tell me, Minister, after this segment has been repaired, does this have any impact on the overall time for completion of the SCHIP project?
No, it shouldn't. It's not a significant section, and there's always the possibility when you're doing such a significant project that you will have challenges, whether it be material challenges or so on. If this was a greenfield site, meaning if it was a fresh site, you would not necessarily know about it because the public would not be using the road. And there have been occasions on greenfield sites where roads have to be dug up because of probably incorrect material being used. So this should not have an impact on the final date of handover for the SCHIP project. But also remember, it's very important to note that as part of the contract, the main contractor, which is China Harbour, has a responsibility to deal with all defects at no cost to the government. And even after the road is handed over to the government, there is a 2-year defects liability period where any defect that occurs over that period, the main contractor is obligated. It's kind of an insurance for the country for the road.
And should we be concerned, Minister, that other sections of the road may very well have this poor material quality, which possibly over time could cause deterioration?
Well, we do know where the material came from. We know exactly the quarry that it came from, and we have put in place some additional measures working with the consultant Harbour Engineering and the NWA as well as the main contractor to ensure that nothing of this nature occurs again. So we don't expect something exactly like this to recur. But as I said to you before, it's a 122 kilometers long road. There will be occasions where there are challenges on it, and that's something that is factored in to the entire contractual arrangement. What is important is that when these issues are observed, that they are quickly remedied and that the public purse does not suffer because of it.
Then, Minister, can we get an overall update on the SCHIP project as to where is currently being worked on and what are the timelines for completion?
We will expect the project to be completed probably mid next year. We are currently in sections of Eastern St. Thomas, and we're also completing, I think we're completing some sections of Portland. We're also doing some work in the Pamphret area where we are putting in place a retaining wall as that was removed by Beryl. That wasn't a part of the original SCHIP project, but because we recognized that the wall was destroyed by Beryl, we thought it was appropriate to protect the road that we replace that wall. Other than that, there are some drain works that are taking place along the roadway. For example, in Morant we're doing some drain works as well, and also looking at areas where other defects may have occurred and repair them. The project is an ongoing project. The contractor is working very fast to try and complete it by mid next year, and that is something that we expect to happen. But the major work is taking place right now in Eastern St. Thomas in the constituency of Michelle Charles. There's a lot of pipeline work taking place there, water pipes. There's a lot of excavation taking place, and also preparation of the surface for marl and asphalt and drainage as well.
Mm-hmm. And just to be absolutely clear, Minister, the repair work that will be done or is ongoing is at no cost to the Jamaican people.
Well, we've said it on several occasions. The Prime Minister said it when he visited the area recently, and it has been said by the National Works Agency as well. It's a part of the contract. The main contractor is responsible for the road. The road has not been handed over to the government as yet, so the main contractor still has custody of the 122-kilometer road. I think some people may be confused because we have opened some sections of the road. Opening does not mean handover. Opening was an effort by the government to really give people the opportunity to have a better commute to and from their business and homes. But the road is still in the custody of the contractor, and they are still obligated to fix whatever may occur at no cost to the government, no cost to the taxpayer, no cost to the country.
So, Minister, there were some issues raised, if I recall, regarding the payment irregularities for subcontractors on that project. Has that been sorted out?
Well, what I can report, and again, context is important. The contracts between the local contractors and China Harbour, the government is not a party to those contracts. So I have to be very careful as a minister how I even comment or try to intervene. My job is to enunciate the policy of the government. What I have done, however, is I have engaged with China Harbour. I have engaged with the local contractors. I recently had a meeting with the head of China Harbour in the region from Panama, as well as the NWA would have engaged them as well. And we made it very clear, one, that the SCHIP program must be done properly and on time, and that it is important that they, within their contractual arrangements, resolve the issues that they have with the local contractors. The reality of it is in contracts, you're always going to have issues between contractor and contractee. That's why you have different dispute resolution mechanisms in contracts. But the government cannot intervene in a contract between two parties because we're not a party to the contract. Our position is that we want a good environment for our local contractors, as well as a good environment for investment. And when I met with the Incorporated Master Builders Association, I assured them that the government does support local contractors, and we also support investment. So the government wants to be a bridge between our local contractors who have expertise, equipment, and labor, and our international investors who have resources so that we can do some of these infrastructure works. So I'm confident, based on the commitments given to me by China Harbour, from their head of the region, as well as the commitment from our local contractors of their willingness to sit at the table, that both parties can amicably work out their challenges. And they have made that commitment, and I cannot go behind that. I have to accept that commitment sincerely.
Mm-hmm. And as it relates to the REACH project, Minister, earlier this week you had indicated that by the end of the week we would know the total allocation that will be given to each MP. Is that now finalized?
Well, the letter has been finalized to be distributed to MPs. It is awaiting the Prime Minister's signature. By the latest Monday, those letters will be distributed to all 63 MPs, where they will understand the allocation to each constituency and also the allocation to each constituency and the stipulations. I want to make something clear. The allocation to the constituencies is separate from the allocation for main roads. So the allocation to constituencies is to deal with community roads. So a big part of the concern a lot of our citizens have had is that they feel that a lot of their community roads have not gotten any attention. But there's also another section of the allocation that deals with, let's say, Arthur Tree Road, Waterloo Road, let's say Lucy, Hanover, let's say sections of Mandeville, and so on. And that allocation will be managed by the National Works Agency. And there are also roads that are border roads that are shared between constituencies, which are in essence no man's land, where no constituency takes real ownership of it. And we have a responsibility as central government to ensure that the community and public does not suffer because of that. So there are two allocations, one to NWA, one to be assigned to constituencies, where NWA will be fixing the main roads, and the constituency organization, meaning the political representatives, will recommend the community roads but to be repaired by the patching program. So by Monday, the public will hear what the allocations are respectively.
Now we're talking to the Works Minister, that's Robert Morgan, about the REACH program that was instituted to assist MPs with many of the outstanding issues caused by Hurricane Beryl. So, Minister, this matter of road rehabilitation being done under REACH, there is a lot of people questioning why this is necessary when you have the Spark program still ongoing, and why many of these issues cannot be addressed under that program.
Well, thank you very much for that question, and I think it gives me the opportunity to explain a little bit more about the difference between the Spark program and the REACH initiative. Now, the Spark program comes from the capital budget. So every year, the Minister of Finance will announce a capital allocation, which is to be used for major projects such as, for example, we're doing a lot of work on Grange Lane in St. Catherine. That's a capital project. You would look at several other major infrastructure projects across the island, which are capital projects. The REACH allocation comes from towards the recurrent maintenance budget of the National Works Agency. So it comes under a different regime. So while the capital project has to go to PIMC, this is the Public Investment Management Committee, and it has to go through a significant, rigorous process of planning and studies and all of that. The REACH is a recurrent expenditure, meaning the NWA would get money every year in their recurrent budget to do routine maintenance. Now, because there was an extraordinary event, which is a hurricane, we recognize that the needs of the country's infrastructure were so greater and were so immediate that it was very important for us to intervene very urgently to try to give the public some respite, some comfort. So, and the other thing I want to mention about Spark as well is that the government would have carried out a significant portion of consultations across, I think we're at 61 constituencies now, where members of the communities would have recommended about 500 roads. When we did our studies, Jamaica has about 23,000 roads in Jamaica. The Spark program is not going to be able to fix all of those roads, but there's still going to be some roads that are not touched by Spark this year or probably next year. Those people deserve roads too. They deserve some respite from the challenges that they're facing with potholes, which impacts their financial circumstances, whether it be because of the cost of transportation or it be because of the cost of parts to repair their vehicles. So while persons may initially question why do we have REACH when we have Spark, the simple answer is Spark is a massive capital program, which is $40 billion over 2 years, while REACH is a significantly less recurrent expenditure program geared at solving some of the challenges, even temporarily, caused by an extraordinary event, which was the Beryl hurricane.
Mhm. Your opposition counterpart, Minister, that's Michael Phillips, says the government continues to ignore the need to establish a dedicated road maintenance fund. How do you respond to that?
I mean, there has been discussions since time immemorial for a dedicated road maintenance fund, but we have to look at history and also look at the future. The government is never resistant to good ideas, but the government is also resistant to bad ideas in new clothes. Remember, the previous road maintenance fund did not have a dedicated funding regime to ensure that the work that needed to be done was being done. What it basically said was that the Ministry of Finance from time to time will make cash infusions into the fund. And it did not serve us well, because the reason why we're here and we have to be doing the SCHIP program and we have to be doing all of these significant capital expenditure into our road infrastructure is for many decades under the road maintenance fund of the past, where it was supposed to have been a dedicated fund for roads. There was not significant investment. What is important, and I think the public would appreciate this as well, is not whether or not we have a dedicated fund for roads, is whether or not the roads are getting fixed. And over the last 8 years, if you compare from a purely budgetary perspective, or you go further and compare from an impact perspective, this administration has spent more on building out infrastructure such as roads, drains, bridges, and so on, than any other administration over a similar period. So we have to look at the outcomes, not just the process. All good and well to have nice named things, but at the end of the day, what the people want is a positive outcome that will have a positive impact on their lives. And the evidence shows, you look at the Mobile Perimeter Road, look at the Harbour View to Portland SCHIP project, which was, when it was suggested by the previous administration, would have been a toll road. It is not a toll road now, it's a proper free road. And if you look at how we are modernizing our infrastructure, we're not just putting down asphalt. For example, under SCHIP, we're doing water mains, we're doing sewer mains, we're doing broadband cabling. That is how we vision infrastructure development, not just discrete things that never worked in the past, but actually things that have positive outcomes for the people of the country.
But Minister, I hear you, but I think it's more than just having money in a budget that people are concerned about. It's about having a structured, scheduled repair of roads that I think is more the concern, because sometimes it would seem a lot of communities and a lot of roads get little attention while others get more, possibly for good reasons in terms of usage and the actual traffic of said corridors. But why not have a system rather than these very once in a while budgetary allocations, an actual structured program where you have scheduled maintenance of roads as just a regular budgetary line item?
There is a scheduled maintenance of roads. This is why there's a recurrent budget at the end of the year for road maintenance of about $4.5 billion, which deals with maintaining our main roads. For example, the work that we just finished at Grandstand Gully, that was a part of our scheduled maintenance. The work that we're going to be doing at Charlton Gully to make it concrete instead of asphalt, that's a part of our scheduled maintenance. And from time to time, to the annoyance of many commuters in the public, you will see men out there on the road patching and overlaying roads. There is a organization called National Works Agency that has a statutory obligation to do routine maintenance and planned maintenance. They have a lot of studies, they do a lot of studies in terms of traffic management and so on, and they do a lot of work in that. I think it's a kind of lack of understanding by the gentleman, or I don't know if it's lack of understanding or an unwillingness to understand, that while there may not be a discrete fund for road maintenance, there is a discrete budget for road maintenance, which is an allocation to the National Road Works Agency. Now, the argument he may have tried to bring forward, if he didn't, is whether or not the government needs to give NWA more money to carry out more maintenance. And that is a symptom of where we're coming from as a country. Remember, there was a point in time when our debt to GDP ratio was about 140%, and we were not able to allocate sufficient resources to repair our hospitals, to repair our schools. And one of the particular interesting things that Beryl has taught us is this country now has the ability to absorb certain shocks without having to borrow. So previously, you would have had to go out there and try to borrow the money to spend $3 billion to repair roads. We didn't have to do that. We could go to the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Finance would look at the money that it has and say, well, we can afford as a country to allocate an additional $3 billion. We could afford $1 billion to repair a lot of the schools that were damaged due to Beryl without having to borrow. We could afford resources to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to give persons who have suffered damage through Beryl some assistance, whether it be food assistance, whether it be minor repairs to their homes. So I think the bigger picture that we need to look at is that we are now in a position where we can afford to do a lot more things because of how we have managed our fiscal space. And what I know based on sitting at the place where I sit on Mondays is that the government is very interested in doing more remedial work on our roads, which is where the Spark program came from. It is very interested in building out our community roads and improving our community roads. And the last point I want to make, let's look at an example of how the government is working in communities. The government has a program through the NHT where we rehabilitate infrastructure and housing schemes that have been around for the last 30, 40 years. The reason why we're able to do that is we have the budgetary space to do it. So in my constituency and other constituencies, older housing schemes are now seeing the government coming and resurfacing the roads, building out drains. Those things never happened before. So it's not just NWA, it's not just Park, it's not just the Montego Bay bypass, it's not just SCHIP, but it's a whole suite of strategic plans that the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Finance and the Cabinet have formulated over a medium to long-term period about lifting our infrastructural quality over time. And I think if we look at the whole picture of what we're doing, then persons will be able to understand the strategy and also the impact which ultimately is to the benefit of our people.
Okay. Minister, we're almost out of time, but I still want to put this last thing to you. The Spark program, $40 billion over 2 years, will it continue beyond that period of time, even under a rebranded name, as just a normal, routine program where community roads are addressed?
Well, I cannot tell you, I cannot predict what is going to be in the budget 2 years from now. What I can tell you is that the intent of the government is to continue to invest in the infrastructure, whether it be Spark, whether it be SCHIP, whether it be the perimeter road, whether it be first to Maxfield, whether it be a bridge program which is being planned. We are very interested in spending a lot of money because the good quality infrastructure is important to the growth and development of our economy. It provides jobs, it provides ease of use for commerce, ease of trade for commerce. And it also helps to enhance the aesthetic appeal of your country. So we are interested in that, but I will not come on radio today and predict what the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister will do in 3 years' time. We have Spark now, and we're going to make the best of it from where I sit as the Minister with responsibility, and we're working out the whole processes so that we can start building some roads as soon as possible.
Very well. Minister with Responsibility for Works, Robert Morgan. Thank you so much for your time, Minister.
Thank you both, and thank you, listeners, for listening.